What's going on? Welcome to episode 86 of season 6 of Talking Throw Podcast Texas Style. I'm Coach Jason.
And I'm Coach Janelle.
And we are throws coaches with the Throwing Club, thethrowingfactory.com. You can go to our website and check out our bios. Remind everybody that we have other coaches in other locations that may fit your needs and proximity to where you live. Coach Kai runs west at the Throwing Factory. Coach Jarvis runs east, and then Coach Knight is out in Abilene, Texas, and he runs Night Power and Performance. So anywhere from shot, disc, weight, hammer, or javelin, we hopefully can fit your needs. Also, to remind everybody, on that throwingfactory.com site, you can go shopping and you can find links to pour throws, the podcast, Porta Circle, and to Fiber Sports, and some information on lifting DFW. And then also, too, we're loving all the support and accolades for the YouTube channel. So, guys, I think you'd rather watch us than hear us, which I totally understand. So just give us that thumbs up and subscribe to that YouTube channel.
And to the podcast.
And to the podcast, for sure. So for season 6, we can't do what we do without our sponsors. That's Texas Track and Field Coach Association, ctfca.org. As everybody's been hearing in season 5, the Winter Clinic is January 7th and 8th. Remind everybody, you get 20 CPE hours if you attend the clinic, and then you get 12 for the virtual clinic. Coach Steven Sines will be doing a shot put talk. Adam Setliff will be doing the discus on that Saturday. And then also the new UNT coach, John Tipton, will be doing the virtual clinic later. I think it's that Monday too, or the following week. So be sure that you go. Be sure that you get credit for all that to get your CPEs taken care of. And that website again is ttfca.org. Fourthrows.com, quality implements priced right. Go to fourthrows.com, use the code TalkingThrows10 to get 10% off anything you need in training. Indoor seasons starting in January, and I've had a lot of people call me looking for indoor shot puts, where do I get them, practice tools and all that. And every time I get that question, I send them to fourthrows.com. Brian Hill, the owner of fourthrows.com, does an excellent job of taking care of everybody in all 50 states. So Porta-Circle, porta-circle.com, making throwing more accessible. Right now we're running a Christmas special. It's XMASTTFCA 15, and that's through January the 9th, and you can get 15% off. So all the way past the clinic. Again, that code is XMASTTFCA 15. And you'll get 15% off. And this is a cool little Porta Circle. The thickness, very sturdy, very durable. Right now, if it's really cold outside and you're looking for reps, what better tool to use to put in a garage, a hallway, a bedroom to get the extra reps in, or barn even. So use that code, and that special code will run through January the 9th. Ready Up Athletic Development, ran by Zach Phillips. You can contact Zach at 512-507-8347. Currently, Zach is doing a really good job of making programs for Olympic lifting or weightlifting for multi-sport athletes that are going from like volleyball and basketball into throwing. If you go to this website, trainheroic.com, and you search basic throw strength, that's basic throw strength, you'll have that program come up. Then if you punch in the code throws10, you will get 20% off the program. So any of those coaches out there looking for a really good in-season workout to get your throwers going in February, because that's when we start in the state of Texas, I would encourage you to get this program, because it's some very good basic stuff that's going to allow your kids to compete at a high level, but actually get a really good workout in. That website again is Train Heroic. That program is basic throw strength. Use the code throws10 to get 20% off. Fiber Sports Discus, fibersportsdiscus.com, a new way to look at the rim weight. We got a new one that's a 4K. I mean a 1K. Sorry.
4K. That's heavy.
So, really cool package. And then also too,
Oh yeah,
real good
the
care,
discus purse.
the discus purse.
Yes,
A really cool strap.
matches all school.
And then you can go to fourthrows.com to get a Fiber Sports discus. If you have any questions, you can contact Bruce directly. Use that code TalkingThrows10 if you go to Four Throws to get that Fiber Sports disc. And then finally, Big Frog Charlottesville for all our apparel in use. Today's guest is just got inducted into the SMU Hall of Fame. He is the current throws coach at the University of Missouri. He has over 30 years of college coaching. As a collegiate, he was a 3-time NCAA champion. He was a 10-time All-American. In 1981, he was an NCAA champion in the weight throw. In 1983, he was the NCAA champion in the hammer. He was a 3-time Olympian representing his home country of Great Britain. Check these dates out: 1987, 1996, and 2000. So he was all over the place. He is also the father of a current Canadian Olympic thrower, hammer thrower, who just went to the Tokoyo Olympics, Jillian Weir as well. I just gave everybody who it is now. So please welcome to episode 87 of season 6, episode 86 of season 6, Robert Weir.
Yeah.
Looking good in that sweatshirt.
That's because it's cold. All right, well, good afternoon, and nice to meet you both.
Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Well, thanks for being on, Robert. My first question is: you just got inducted into the SMU Hall of Fame. Based on your amazing athletic career while you were a thrower at SMU, kind of tell us what that induction mean to you, and then kind of how your experience was at SMU as a collegiate.
Well, first of all, the Hall of Fame induction was a surprise of sorts, because I had an inkling before that my name would come up for something, but I don't usually don't get things like Hall of Fames or any of those sorts of things. That just doesn't happen. I think it was an opportunity to reflect and to show the thanks for the experiences I had at SMU. And I'd come over to SMU from the UK. So my first major journey overseas was to a very, very different and very preppy university, the likes of which I'd never seen before, because everyone had flashy cars and Mercedes, Cadillacs, all sorts, and it was really interesting because all of the women were dressed up, and some of the men weren't so dressed up, and I couldn't understand. I mean, here I was basically in working man's clothes. I'd just come over to a place that was, the morning routine was people would make up and really dressed very, very well going to breakfast, and I thought, my goodness, what kind of place is this? But that's as far as the social aspect was concerned.
Uh-huh.
But in an athletic world, one of the things was I'd just come over to SMU. I hadn't really registered and just arrived and all those sorts of things. And in the first week I had been there was a powerlifter by the name of Mike Bridges, and he was 170 pounds, and the powerlifting championships were taking place in Dallas. So somehow I found a way to get to the location and went in to watch the powerlifting championships. And and some of the guys that were doing the powerlifting were officials or officiates were British, but I didn't know them. I'd seen them before, so there's no communication or connection there. However, so I went into this place and Mike Bridges squatted 748 pounds for a new world record.
Oh, wow.
It just took my breath away. Just completely took my breath away. I'd never seen anything like it. His next lift, he squatted 788 for another world record. And then then he missed his final attempt was he missed 832 pounds. So in my first couple of days on SMU or really in Dallas, I just witnessed 2 world records. I'd never seen a world record before. So I was just, by saying seen one, I mean being live. I mean, you watch it on TV and things. So that was just a mind-boggling experience. And then the next minute, later on that weekend, there was an athletics competition. I think the University of Houston were competing, and some other teams were competing as well. In that competition that weekend, Carl Lewis jumped 8:49, which was 27 feet 10 or something.
Yeah.
For another world record. So in the space of 1 week, I had said, I've just seen 3 world records in the space of 1 week. What kind of place is this? So I said, I'm going to find out. So
I may hang out here for a while.
Yeah. Yes.
All these preppy people and world records.
Yeah. So I just said, well, I'm going to stay here for a while in that case.
Yeah.
And so the person who had recruited me was a triple jumper by the name of Keith Connor, who he himself, later on in the indoor season, he set a world record in the triple jump of 17:31 at the time.
Oh,
But he recruited me, and I knew of him because track and field was a big sport in the UK, and I'm from the UK. And at that time, I'd set national records in the discus, national records in the hammer, national records with a college implement, national records with a college implement in the hammer, all junior age records or things like that. So I don't think I had the hammer record, but I was close to it at that time. So he recruited me successfully, and I came there. And most people think that it must have been all of these universities and all of these colleges that were just going after you and trying to get you to come there. And in reality, no, there wasn't. Just Keith and told me that I should go to SMU, because not only would I go to SMU and I'd be okay, but he'd also be there as a student himself, and therefore I'd have a connection to home, and therefore I'd have somebody there looking out for me and watching it, which would be him. So I should go. It would be a worthwhile venture, and that's what sold me on going to SMU in the first place. And so I did that, and then being the top junior athlete, and my father had just died recently. He had just died, and so now with 4 brothers and two sisters back home, and my mom, of course, it really was a very, very big decision to choose to go to America. But I realized I couldn't do much staying in Britain, and that was my only opportunity really to help get some things started. So off I went to here. I mean, SMU, I'm thinking, what do I do next? Now, what do I do? And I realized that being my family being so large, my mom would not be able to afford for me to be able to come back to Britain the next year, which is what I wanted to do. So there was no help really, and I thought, what am I going to do? But what actually happened was, I realized that if I was able to come back to Britain and compete for Great Britain, or compete for home, then the federation themselves would fly you, because now you're representing the country.
Yeah.
So now I was in a situation now where I was training at a university. I was on my own, and I was wanting to get back home so I could see family and all those other things. So there lies the incentive now for me to train and to get better, because if I didn't get better as an athlete in terms of performances, in fact, I had to get better by the level of fact, I had to get beyond really what the Olympic standard was at that time in order to stand a chance of going back to England. So therein became the incentive. So I had a situation here. My father had died. My family was left behind, and I'd made this decision. And the only way I could get back there was to be good enough as an athlete to be able to compete for Great Britain, because track and field is a very important sport. Well, it's an important sport worldwide, but at the time, when you look at the major sports that were shown on TV, track and field in England was the big one.
Yeah.
So that became the incentive, and so I started working out and dedicating myself to working out. So the training was quite intense. I had no, it was really hard to explain. Training, in fact, I can tell you what I did here because I remember. I can tell you what I did. So we were lifting 3 times a week, maybe 4 times. Sometimes fourth day I hardly did anything. But the lifting session was and the lifting we do today now is not even close to this because there's no. Anyway, so the lifting was as follows. Monday was 6x6 cleans, 6x6 clean pulls, 6x6 clean shrugs off the floor. All right.
Oh, wow.
Then it was back squats, 6x6. Then it was bench, and that was also 6x6. And then it was followed by leg extensions, leg curls, sometimes step ups, pull downs, seated rows, wow, and sometimes tricep push downs. And then there was abs.
Wow. Now, was this workout done by your throwing coach that?
No, this is a workout that I was done. That the coach sent me to the weight room, and the strength coach gave me this program. Said, "Okay, right, this is what you're doing." My goodness, and that was for 4 weeks. So, so it alternated between cleans one session, and then 2 days later snatch, and then 2 days later cleans. And the following week it was snatch, clean, snatch. Oh, so wow. Right, so yeah, that was a workout for 4 weeks.
Oh wow!
For 4 weeks, that was a workout. Then it went to 5s and then 4s and whatever it is. But so that was a condition. Let me say, conservatively speaking, I was sore every time.
You still remember that, so it was very.
I remember the sessions. The 4th session was sort of like, I'll come in and do some jerks and come in. I'd go in the weight room and I'd just look at the scene. I'd just go in the weight room, put the weight on, not much of anything, and then do that and then leave. Sometimes I didn't even bother doing it, just left.
Now, was that your first experience in doing kind of Olympic lifting, or as a junior and back home, did you do any of those, kind of build-ups to Olympic lifting, if you know what I'm saying?
Well, it's funny because when I got into throwing, you started to read books and learn what others were doing. I had to learn how to do cleans. I wasn't any good at doing cleans at the time, but I learned. And this is a segue into another story for you. It's a little story. So, we used to have these junior weekends where the top junior athletes or under 20 athletes from around the country, they would put us in a hotel on the December somewhere else, and then it's like team camaraderie, get to know each other, have meals and everything, and then they do these tests, athletic tests and things of that nature. So yeah, I went to one of those weekends and it was great. And I remember one time there was a hammer thrower who became an announcer, and his name is Paul Dickinson. And he said, and one time we were all standing around, and three or four of us together, and Paul says, "Well, let's start a conversation." And at that time, I had power cleaned 290. I don't think that was not bad. It was all right. And then I remember Paul saying, "Come on, Meg, let's start a conversation. Tell them I'm she clean." Meg was like, no, I don't want to. In a Scottish accent. This is Meg Ritchie, by the way. No, I don't want to. Oh, come on, tell them how much you clean. No, don't want to. Come on. Paul's like, come on, Meg. They need to know. They need to have an idea of what it takes to be world class. No. Finally, she says, under her breath, she goes, 310. I remember going, I'd lost my breath. Absolutely, my breath was like, I went back in my mind. I'm like, 310. She cleans 310. I was saying to myself, I'm only at 290. Oh my goodness! It was just, that was the start. That was the start of me learning that you can't tell people what they can or cannot do. They'll tell you what they can or cannot do. It doesn't matter who they are, right? But it was for me at the time. It was extremely breathtaking because this is a woman telling this young man, "Listen, I lift more weights than you." I'll never forget. I remember going. It was very funny. So
there's still a lot of that going on now where women are, more flexible and explosive.
It's just the same thing as everything else. Once you put people in the right environment and give them the right opportunities and the right support and the right things they need to be successful, they will be successful. Once you deny those things to people, some people will still make it because of their overwhelming desire, but it's a much harder road to climb.
Yeah.
Right. So, if you have a weight room with all the equipment you need, and it's right next door to you, right? So like you go outside of your house, you drive or walk 3 blocks and there's the weight room. You're right there, you're lifting right now. If I am want to go to the weight room and I live 10 miles away, right? Then I'm gonna find 10 miles of traveling to get there.
Yeah.
To lift. Meanwhile, you're already lifting. Yeah. And I'll touch on that. I'll touch on that again later on. But so anyway, so back to the weight room at SMU. So I was doing that, and then but it started off at 60 or 70%. So if my first session was but at the time I didn't. At the time it became that, but my first session after that, the next session went up. So I did one session of cleans at about say 60%, sake of argument. One session of snatches at say 60%. The next session in cleans, believe me, I was already sore as because it's like you just been shocked and you had no idea of what was going on.
Yeah.
Had no idea about recovery, massages, none of those things. Just carrying around all this soreness. And then the Friday session was the same as Monday's, but 62.5%.
Oh, wow.
Right. Wow. So then the following Monday, snatches were 62.5%. And then Wednesday, the cleans were 65. Then Friday again, the snatches were 65. And that was the cycle of the program. So it went 60, 62, 65, 67, 70, 72, 75, 77. And right as it got to 80, that's when the reps changed.
Oh, wow. Now, were you throwing before this lifting regimen or on the days off?
What I might describe as throwing. I remember picking up a discus. And I don't know if I got it to 40 meters. I was incredibly sore. Incredible. I mean, to get it to 120 feet or something like that, it was ridiculous. I had no idea. I couldn't do it. And then there was also the hammer as well.
Yeah.
And that's another story because most people in my international career would not know. In the early parts of my career, I was also an international world-class hammer thrower.
Yeah.
And then later on, I was a world-class discus thrower. So anyway, so I had no idea. So I was so sore, and I remember the hardest thing for a workout session was at one point was getting changed. You're so sore. You're thinking, how am I going to make it through the? You're in the locker room and you're just sitting there thinking, and you're trying to psych yourself up just to go in the weight room.
Yeah, and I have to ask this because he's pretty big in the state of Texas for throwing. Is you had a classmate during the time you were at SMU, Michael Carter. And
when I met Michael, he was in football.
Yeah. Okay. So he was in football. Okay, and that was my question was I was leading up. I was kind of curious. Did you find yourself competing against him in the weight room? Of trying to outdo him as well to maybe be so sore.
Michael was doing football at the time. Michael and I today are very, very close friends.
Yes.
His children are my godchildren.
Oh,
and
really?
I will tell you one trick I played on Michael. One year it was the Olympic trials, and his daughter was so Michelle was competing, obviously, so she was getting ready.
Yeah.
And so I rang up Dee Dee and I said, "Hi Dee, how things going?" She goes, "Oh, Rob, I wanted to go, but through work I don't have the time, and I couldn't really afford it at the time, and all this sort of stuff." So I said, "Oh, really?" She said, "No, so I'm just going to stay." I said, "All right, well, how about if I paid for the ticket?" She said, "All right." So I said, "Pick the date." I said, "The weekend, the Olympic trials this weekend." I said, "What we'll do is we won't tell your dad or your mom, and then we'll just fly up there." So she flew up. I flew her up to Eugene, Oregon, picked her up at the airport, and drove her down. And she checked into the hotel. And I never said a word to Michael or Sandy. So the next morning, they knocked on her door, on Michelle's doorbell, because I arranged it with Michelle. knocks on Michelle's doorbell, and Dee Dee answers the phone. And apparently, I wish I had the money to pay for that. I had to be in an appointment, so I couldn't break the appointment. So apparently, they opened the door, and their mouths were wide open, and they were like speechless for like 15 seconds. And they were just completely shocked. And after about 15 seconds, like, "What are you doing here?" She goes, "I just came to watch you track me."
That's awesome.
And I never said it. I never said anything. So then later on that afternoon, I get a phone call which says, "I'm going to get you." I'm like, "What? Breakfast, lunch? What do you mean you're going to get me?" I don't need anything right now. He says, "You know what you've done." I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Yeah, but it was me. Yeah,
I got you.
it was worth it. It was absolutely worth it.
I'm sure it was.
Right. But Michael was in football at the time, and before coming over to SMU, ironically, it turns out that SMU was where Michael had gone, because I knew about him that summer because there were these amazing distances in the shot put that no one had seen. And the standard implement in the UK and in Europe was 5 kilo. He was throwing that with 5.44, 12-pound shot, which is almost like a pound and a bit heavy, almost a pound heavier.
Yeah.
And he was throwing distances that were just out of this world. And we've never heard it. At the time, a long throw was 20 meters, like 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And then you're reading that someone's throwing 22 meters high, 22 meters mid. And it was like, who is this man? This is impossible. And I remember somebody had a book and I finally saw videos of him. And so that was very impressive. Some of the things he was doing. And, his story in his training is another story in of itself.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it was so it turns out that I was brought to the same university. And so I met him one afternoon while he was at football practice, and he came over and said hi. He wasn't practicing then, but he came over and said hi and all that stuff, and we met. And it was after that we became friends. But it turns out we both had a different idea of what kind of thrower we looked like. So he thought I was being English. I was English, meaning white, and I saw him, so I knew he was a black shot putter, but he was shocked when he met me and realized, wait, he's the Englishman?
That's funny. Nice.
That's the Englishman people were talking about? So it was but anyway, so whenever you train, this was training I had to do on my own. I was already self-motivated by virtue of the fact that I wanted to get back home.
Yeah.
Back to the UK. So that training, and I didn't do squats. I didn't do squats 3 times a week. I did squats twice a week. It was like the Monday and the Thursday, or the Wednesday. It's either Monday and Thursday with the Wednesday the following week, or something like that. I didn't do squats all 3 times, but my goodness. Anyway, so.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but your freshman year, you won the championship in the weight throwing indoor, right?
Yeah.
So you hadn't even been to SMU for 5 months.
I hadn't been for SMU or anything, and I'd never seen the weight before. And here I am, the collegiate record holder, NCAA champion, freshman record, blah blah blah, all those things. And I don't mean to petty it, but I was just shocked because I didn't realize, like, you've done something, you don't realize, you don't quite understand what it was, and then I settled down later on. I realized I just set a collegiate record.
Yeah.
I just won nationals. I just beat everybody. I wasn't even ranked in the top 10.
Yeah.
And I came back. All of those things hit you later on. But at the time, you think, oh yeah, I just won. Whatever. You celebrate with your friends and you're going around and this, that, and you think nothing of it. And then later on, you realize, my goodness, these are all the things that I'm like, wow. So that's what hit me.
Yeah.
But the training I did, and the weights went up. I remember at the end of that cycle of training, and when I say cycle, I don't know, or periodization, or whatever people want to call the term they want to use. I was doing reps my personal best towards the end of the session, and then within that training session itself, I would push myself. See, right now, this is I would within the session, I would push myself. So, say for example, it was 6x6 in the cleans. On set 4, I would do 8 reps. Then I'd do set 5, I'd do 6, and then set 6, I'd do 8 reps again if I could. And and I'd push along those lines. And, over and over again, that was the, over and over again, that was the training. So within certain areas of the training, that's, like, I've got to get there. So I've got to get more out of myself. So I got very, very fit, very, very fit and very strong. When I was getting ready for the NCAA meet, we had to do singles or doubles or something that week. And so we decided that we'd lift the Sunday because by the time we travel and everything else, we won't have a chance to lift at the NCAAs. And I remember, and by that time, Michael and I were training together. We were actually training together. So Sunday evening, we're doing squats. And I ended up doing a personal best in the squats then. I did 240 kilos for 2.
Oh, wow.
Right? Michael was still warming up. Like, 240, I was like, ah! Then he went, so Michael then went 260. I think he went, I did 240, he went 250, 270, and then something else, but whatever it was. Let me think. No, he ended at 270. So I did this for 2, and then he gets underneath there, he just pumps out 2 reps at 240. Then he does 255, then he goes 270, something like that. But anyway, in either case, he does that for 3 reps.
Oh wow!
Right?
Oh,
I just like that's me done. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And he did it for 3 reps. But the way that Michael did the reps, it wasn't just coming out of the squat like coming up and barely standing up.
Yeah.
He'd come out of the reps, and as soon as he was in a power position to like pop, it'd explode up.
Oh wow!
Right? So then he'd go back down, come back up, drive, and explode up. And that was over 600 pounds he was doing this with.
Oh, wow.
And I'd never seen anything like this. I mean, I don't know how much pounds I'd put on my squat, but I had never seen anything like this. I mean, like he'd come out of his squats and he'd just explode.
Oh wow!
And I couldn't. It was so I was training with that, and later on. So when we were training later on, that's where the motivation and that's where the lifting. That's where all the other things came into play.
Yeah.
It was
Did
incredible.
you ever throw any disc any shot put at SMU?
I can't throw shot put to save my life. I can throw.
Thanks for the honesty.
Yes.
No. I can throw up better than I can throw a shot. I think my best is 45 feet. I think 45 feet in a shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
That was
So that's
a
what.
stand throw or something.
No, it was a glide. Everything.
Oh, okay.
A complete glide. Everything. And now.
Did you was there a love-hate relationship with shot put, or what was it?
I just couldn't do it. It was almost like if there was a gene for the shot putting, I didn't have that gene.
You didn't get the gene.
You know how some people can roll the tongues and some
Yeah.
people can't, and they said they identified there's a specific gene that allows them to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Well, if the shot put was a tongue roll, I didn't have that gene.
There you go.
Right?
Gotcha.
So, but I learned later on there were certain things I could do and certain things I couldn't do, and the things I could do was well. I mean, in the meantime, when I was throwing the weight, and throwing the hammer, the discus came along. So at the end of my my freshman year, the hammer went from 216 feet. The collegiate hammer went from 16 feet to 239 feet. And the discus went from 175 feet to 194.
Oh wow!
And I was all American. I was all American in both.
Yeah.
Right.
You have a lot of accolades. 10-time All-American, 3-time NCAA. Is there anything during your junior senior year that you're most proud of? That there might have been some adversity that you came about because you did get the qualifying standard, based on your home country's marks and stuff, where you could fly back home. Is there anything that stands out to you during that time?
Well, yeah, my junior year was great because there was a rivalry against one of my teammates, and his name was Richard Olson.
Oh.
And Richard Olson, during the indoor season in the weight throw, finished second, and he did not speak to me or anyone for about a month.
Oh.
Because he was the favorite. Ted had no idea that Ted McGuffin was our college coach then. Had no idea that we were going to go 1 and 2 in a weight throw, right? We weren't 1 and 2, but Richard was 2. Right? Richard did not speak because I So my indoor competition schedule was like my first ever meet, I threw like 67 feet. My second meet, I threw 63 feet. And my third meet was 73.7. So,
Yeah.
so who would have thought?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're seeing that, oh, 67, 63, oh, yeah, nothing to worry about him. And then, like, where did 73 feet came from? And I threw 73 feet in the first round at the NCAAs. And in the second round, I thought I threw just as far, maybe a little bit further. And I could have saved it, and I didn't. But anyway, it killed the meet. They were just like, how far? You know, like you're going to a meet and your opening throw is a collegiate record. I think it changes things.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then, but it was thrown with a metal ball and a triangle. None of the technology that they put into the implements today. It was just solid metal and metal. So the throw itself is worth more if I could throw with some of the technology. But then, you know, that's what's supposed to mean. The things are supposed to advance on. You set a standard and people in time will surpass it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so anyway, so that was a rivalry between Richard and myself. So during the indoor season, I mean, not much happened. I mean, I hurt myself, and you know, they had no idea. Neither did I. And Michael had come out of football and was just competing, just throwing it on, and we just sort of got along well together. We just started training together and developing things and working out together. It was pretty good.
Did y'all have conversations about, you know, the '84 Olympics and that being right down the road and the next big opportunity for the world stage? Did you,
No.
were you as you were training at SMU, were you thinking about that in 2 to 3 years?
I thought about the '84 Olympics way before I got to SMU.
Really?
That was that's one of my goals. That's like one of your lifetime goals, is to become an Olympic athlete. Once you've achieved something like that, then in theory it gives you the ability that if you have the desire for something else, then you can achieve that no matter what that is.
Yeah.
You know, and that's pretty fantastic. I mean, there was an athlete when I was coaching at Stanford, and she was a heptathlon national champion, was a soccer player, and her name is Dr. Tracy Lawyer, and she's an orthopedic surgeon.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, you talk about being successful in one area and taking that success and putting it into something else. And maybe when she came into college, she had that desire as being a doctor in the first place. I don't know that. But all I know is that she was successful in two parts of her life, as an athlete, and then now as now in a profession, in a career.
Yeah.
So
but were you thinking about the Los Angeles and doing both? Because that's very rare to qualify in two events in Olympics. Well, and how did you juggle that? And how was your training to do that?
Well, okay. So to answer that question, the quick answer is I picked one event as the primary event, and the other event developed along with it.
Okay.
My primary event became the hammer, because of the technical aspects and all of those things. So I made the hammer my main event. So my training and training, a lot of it crossed over to the discus as well. I didn't do as much bench press and as much shoulder presses and exercises the athletes did, but I did enough. Yeah. I didn't do a lot of it. And so as the hammer improved, I'd noticed the discus would come along for the ride as well. So I remember before my first competition, because the Olympics was already in my mind. I remember first competition outdoors. My very first competition, my best in meters was 65.86 meters, right? And when it went to the outdoor season, my first outdoor meet, the magic number. So you know, it's really funny because in America, you have certain metrics like 200 feet, 220 feet, 240 feet. Those are like magical numbers. Like in the shot put, it's 60, 65, and 70 feet. Yeah. Those are all magical numbers. So I grew up in a metric system. So the magic distance for me in the discus was 60 meters. Uh-huh. The magic distance for me in the hammer was 70 meters at that time. So if you throw if you throw like 70 meters, like, whoa, 70 meters. Today, you throw 70 meters, nobody even pays attention. They just turn the page. Like, oh yeah, in the news today, 70 meters, turn the page.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. But anyway, so my first outdoor competition in the hammer after the indoor season, my first outdoor competition in the hammer, Richard won the competition, of course. He set a collegiate record and all that stuff. So then he started talking again because now he's back on top. But anyway, so my first outdoor season, I flew 233.8, no, something 71.22.
Uh-huh.
So that was already beyond the Olympic standard. At that time, it was about 69 meters.
Yeah.
So the Olympics was already firmly, because that was the first thing crossed my mind. Is like, I'm flying further than the Olympic standard.
Yeah.
All right. So that's very hard to do. So I was already at that level. So the Olympics was always something that I wanted to be a part of, something I wanted to do. It never changed. All that did was solidify my my realization that I could actually become an Olympic athlete.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, which would years from now serve as inspiration for my daughter Jillian, because Jillian Weir is a hammer thrower for Canada, and she's an Olympic athlete now too, and finished fifth in the World Championships. Yeah, and then finished fifth in the World Championships in Eugene, Oregon. And when I talked to her, she said, "Well, Dad, you were an Olympic athlete," and I had no idea that what I had done had inspired her to what she's doing.
Oh wow!
You know, so coming back, the conversation wasn't a conversation we talked about. It was just something on the inside that I wanted to achieve.
Oh wow!
You know? Yeah.
Wow. Did you coach her during that time as her when she was Eugene and stuff? Are you training her, or
I train her somewhat for the Tokoyo Olympics. Yes.
Okay.
I coached her to the Tokoyo Olympics. She has a coach in Canada, but her training and what she did was directly influenced by what I said she needed to do. I told her to keep in touch with her college with a Canadian coach. I said, because no matter what, if you make the Olympic team, you're going to need somebody to work with you there. I'm not going to be I won't be a Canadian coach, obviously, because I wasn't going to be invited. But you needed to do that so you can keep up with what's going on, and that's exactly what she did.
Wow. So I have to ask this, and how did you separate dad from coach? Because I know a lot of dads who try to coach and they can't separate the two. And if you don't,
yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah. So so in my mind it was a relief now that I realized I was an Olympic caliber athlete. So yeah, it was quite something.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So 84, you make finals in both the shot and the discus.
No, I made finals in both the hammer and the discus.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hammer and discus.
6 figure shot put.
So
yeah.
Because you probably threw 4 days, consecutive days, right? You had to qualify, then final, qualify, then finals, right?
Right. Yeah. But I've been prepared for that all year. In all my collegiate years, in my collegiate seasons and practices and competitions and in training, I had hammer and discus on my plate as things to do. I remember one year that's focusing on the hammer, and my college coach Ted McLaughlin says, Robert, your scholarship is for hammer and discus. It's not just for hammer, because I haven't even thrown the discus. And what he meant, and this was in '84, and what he meant was, you haven't qualified for the discus for NCAAs. Get going. So I'm like, all right. So I went outside and got the discus, had one throwing session, not bad. Had another throwing session, not bad. Third throwing session, pretty good. Had a competition, qualified for NCAAs, and all right, qualified too.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Now back to my hammer focus.
Now back to what's important.
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize or understand nor really appreciate, that kind of a gift or that kind of ability. I had no
idea.
I had no understanding of it. I mean, it would have taken somebody older who'd been there, would seem to sit me down and say, listen, you don't understand what this is and what you should do and could do. And I had no connection. But that's what happened. Just went up from I went up from nowhere and qualifying for the NCAAs in the discus. And he saw that I was qualified. Okay, you satisfied? Yeah. Okay, good. Back. Had I understood that, I would have been practicing the discus more. I would have done. You look back at things like that and you realize that made no sense to me. How is it that I could not understand these things?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And as a coach now, you understand it fully. When somebody's talented and has that kind of ability, you know, the next thing you have to say is, what's their mindset? Like, what is their choices? Are they really into this or not? And then it gives you an idea of what kind of person or athlete you're dealing with.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
So let's go currently then. So you're currently the throws coach at University of Missouri. You've been coaching
Yep.
for over 30 years. You've had stops at Stanford, Oregon. You've coached some of the best collegiates of all time. Any words of aspirations to us young coaches?
Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't coached. Let me just say this. Regarding the coaching aspect, my coaching career isn't what it should have been or could have been. I spent a good number of years at Stanford, and I'm very grateful for my time at Stanford.
Yeah.
But there were a number of times where there were key athletes who could have made an impact, and there just wasn't any scholarship for them. There just wasn't the support for them. And so after a period of time, I lost some of my reputation as a coach because people only recognize you by who you coach. Like, if you were to look at the hot coaches, right, the top coach right now, the two people right now, Brian Blutrick and Mo Satara. Mo Satara coaches the discus thrower, Alekna, as well as the Canadian hammer thrower, Cameron Rogers, right? I recruited Cameron, and she was very interested, but when it came time for it, they just wasn't prepared to put the scholarship in there because they were looking at her size, and I was looking at her ability. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
I was looking at her ability and her desire and the fact that this is something she really wanted to pursue. You find people like that, they may not be as good as, but they will beat the person who's ahead of them.
Yeah.
You know, because they're prepared to take the extra step, work the extra hour, do the extra things that will help them get ahead. And over time, they will get ahead. So I missed out a number of athletes. And so sometimes when I call people and all this stuff, they in recruiting wise, they have no idea. They have no idea of my ability to get athletes to another level. Like, I worked with Adam Nelson.
Yes.
And Adam Nelson, his college coach sent him to me at Stanford and said, "This guy's going to help you." Adam ended up with a silver medal
in the shot put.
In the shot put, Olympic silver medal.
You got to coach it, but not to throw it.
Yeah, you see it? I told you. Adam had the right genes for shot putting. I had the right genes for coaching, not the other way around. But anyway, so I worked with Adam, and Adam flew 22 meters, but was not satisfied with the level of coaching he was getting from me, which is fine. I mean, you can't be everything for everybody. But Adam and I have a great friendship relationship to this day, and he left and worked with Don Babbitt. But there were a couple of things. First of all, under my training with Adam, he went from 19 meters 62 to 22 meters 12.
Oh, wow.
So whether you like the training and what I did or didn't do, you can't argue with those kind of results. Right. Yeah. In the time that he trained with Don Babbitt, he flew 22.51. So he improved about 39 centimeters over the rest of his career.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not criticizing either one, but I know, and I would tell him, I said, there's a lot more there. But it wasn't for me to tell him how to get more out of himself, and because once you've decided to move your direction in your training, all you can do is wish him the best. You can't. I mean, I don't hold any grudges or anything like that, because I mean, what's the point? But when Adam would get ready for competition, Adam would say in his later years, he would say it was his jumps. That when his jumps were going very well, that means he knew he was ready to throw. And everybody has, I shouldn't say everybody, I should say most people have a link of some connection to your throw or your performance. Like, I know John Powell, rest in peace, John Powell used to say for him it was deadlift. Once his deadlift started going up, he knew he could throw the discus far. Not well, really? But far. Yeah. You think deadlift? How is it deadlift? But that was his lift for him. I know another athlete throwing the shot overhead. That was it for him. If he could do overheads, and the overheads would go, I don't know, whatever distance it went, he knew right then he was ready to throw. And everybody else had something else in between, you know. And I used to say to people, like, with some of the athletes, what I would do is I try to learn the athlete, learn what you do is going to have the biggest impact on them. And once I learned that, then that became when they got ready to compete. That was some of the things I incorporated into the training. And so it did two things. First of all, it built the athlete's confidence in their ability to perform well, because these things you're introducing now is converting directly into the throw because you've learned what that was. And then with each throwing and with each session, the intensity would go up and the performances would go up, and they would know. You wouldn't have to tell them; they would know that they were ready to throw far. And that's how I used to train the athletes.
Oh, wow.
You know, and so it didn't look the same for one athlete versus the other. Another thing I learned with some athletes was one year I was training Jill Camarina, and I went in college, and most people would be surprised I coached her too, because there's another guy, Craig, who used to coach when he was at Arizona. But anyway, so Jill was a glider in college, and we were looking at it. I was looking.
Well, she had a big bench too. I believe.
A big bench?
Yes.
No. Eventually
No?
she did, but not. Yeah, eventually she did, but not when she was in college.
Okay. That wasn't this.
But
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't focus on the bench first because that's not what she had. But she, one time I said, looking at your training, like, you have a chance to make the Olympic team, outside chance, but we should go for it anyway. I was just looking at her training for the last year and the last bit. I said, you know what, Jill, what we're going to do is we're going to have to train through some of these competitions. We're going to put in cleans, power cleans or hand cleans into the training sessions. Just a couple of sets before the competition. That way we won't lose as much ground and we'll keep you in shape. Excuse me. So I actually put her in the day before one of the competitions. She was doing cleans. She was like, Coach, it feels good today. The next day she had a competition. Coach, it feels good today. I said, what do you mean it feels good? I don't know. It just feels good. She threw we're expecting 16 meters or something. She threw damn near 17 and a half meters. Oh, wow. And that became an indicator. So I knew, therefore, that she had to lift heavy the day before competition. If she lifted heavy the day before competition, the performances were going to come. Big performances. Because all the other stuff we did worked, but that was one thing we learned by accident that worked even better. Wow. Yeah. So you learn the athlete. The other advantage I would say for most coaches is I don't look at the athlete now. Most coaches probably do the same thing anyway. I look at where the athlete can improve and where they could be better.
Welcome back, track people. This is Brandon, owner of 4throws.com. We're a fast and growing track and field company that specializes in the throws. With our speed shipping, implement warranties, and rock bottom prices on javelins, discuses, shot puts, and hammers, call us up today to talk directly to one of the owners at 4throws.com.
And when I find out, when I look at them and I coach them, like, okay, I think if I can fix this and fix that, I can do this. And then I talk to them and then they tell me ask them about those areas where I think they can improve. Do you do much work in this area? No. Do you much work in this area? No. I'm like, okay, tick, plus. And then the athlete comes and then I just work on those things and it goes. There's a young athlete called Ames Burton, who's at Missouri right now. And she, coming in, so she was a redshirt freshman, so she's a freshman this year. She came into the season and she'd thrown the discus in high school, 155. So we redshirted her anyway. She, by U.S. Nationals, she finished second U.S. Nationals. So she made the team to represent the U.S. and she threw the discus 178.
Oh, wow.
And she also had a couple of, at the meet, she had a couple of fouls that was beyond 180. And I'd seen her throw over 180 a couple of times in practice, and I shut it down. And all right, that's enough. And she said, like, what do you mean? I said, oh yeah, you got to meet tomorrow. You'll be ready. And we went to one meet, and this meet was notorious for having great conditions to throwing. Fantastic. I'm excited. Can't wait for the next day. Oh, on top of the world. Let's go for this competition. Now she's competing. I can't actually coach her because she's redshirting, but I can stand there and watch. I can stand there and look at it. It's like, I'm excited because she had all the instructions before. Yeah. So I couldn't say anything because she's a redshirt athlete. We drive to the competition, conditions, not so bad, not so bad. And then the competition, the winds change in the opposite direction.
Oh, wow.
The opposite direction. But to give an idea, so it went from like this really fantastic, great place to throw, and it turned. When she competed there at the time, her best was 170, no 160, 170. She threw 175 into a tailwind.
Oh, wow.
She threw 175 into the tailwind. I mean, and she hit the discus clean. You could see tailwind 175. I'm like, if it had been the other way, what would that have been? Because that would, that changes the entire dynamic. But anyway, yeah. So,
quick question for you: how has coaching changed currently with maybe what you do at Missouri compared to maybe what you did, at Oregon 10 years ago, or maybe Stanford before? Is it because I'm asking because the kids have changed, social media is different? How is your approach handling, checking the boxes to get to know these kids, to understand where you can make them improve? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Well, it's more the other way around. Because of the change in social media and things like that, the athletes are more drawn to the glitz and the glamour. The actual part of wanting to get the right coaching to be good isn't something that everybody looks at. Sometimes you can call somebody up and say, "Hey, look at this, and I can help you here and there," and they're just not interested because they want the shiny, bright object. They don't want the stuff that will actually become very shiny and even more impressive. They want what they see right now. I was recruiting one gal, and she told me her distance, and I said, "Well, we're going to offer you a full scholarship or something like that." Wasn't interested. Well, I don't think it's the right fit. You haven't even found out what the fits are and what the pieces are. She'd already had a mind made up, and so that's one of the things. I mean, and also it's changed now because the coaching has become a lot more cutthroat, and people are prepared to say things that they don't know and fabricate things coaching wise to make the job of recruiting a decent person more difficult. Like I would recruit somebody and I would hear, "Well, apparently this coach can't do this, this, and this." And I would say to them, I said, "Well, how do you know?" "Oh, this guy told me." I said, "But that guy is not in that program. He couldn't possibly know what's in that program unless he was part of it. If he's not part of that program, then you have somebody who's telling you lies." But the worst part for me is that you're actually believing what this person's saying. Yeah. And I just wish him the best because, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because, there's one guy who was at Missouri, and his high school coach just would not let go, was interfering with everything. "Oh, the training's not working. It's not doing this. It's not doing that. You should transfer." So he transferred. So then he went to another school. "Oh, the throwing's not this. The throwing's not that. You should throw." He's transferred again for the second time. Best of luck to him. And then he'd treat me as if I was the enemy. I'm like, "I've done nothing wrong but try to help you."
Yeah.
And you're acting towards me as if I had, stole your money or something, broken your car, crashed your car, or whatever. I said, but I'm like, if that's your choice, that's your choice. I'm at peace with the fact that you're trying to do something better for yourself. Go do that. It wasn't me. I can't be the answer for everything.
Yeah.
Answer for some things, but not everything. So go to where you're gonna go, and best luck to you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But in today's society with the athletes, I think a lot of the athletes are more like, for example, you want to talk about a huge recruiting tool. One of the schools in the Pac-12, they don't even have to talk about any recruiting. They hosted the World Championships. You don't have to say anything.
Yeah.
The facility is outstanding. They're out of this world. They're at the next level. And so if that's what you want to, then that's where you should go, if that's what you're after. But that by itself doesn't mean you're going to get the training to make you at that level or caliber. So in other words, you see this. So if you were to look at yourself as a facility, maybe you come in as a facility that's not really that good yet, but you come into a place where they can help you construct, design, improve you, and bring you to a level that is just as good as, or even better than what you're seeing over there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't see that in yourself, then you should go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's good.
Right? Because that means I'm going to be working harder to get you to where you want to be than you're prepared to work because you don't think you can get there.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be in situations like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what happens is that you who have expectations that they don't expect, you try to help them. What are you doing here? What are you doing there? And then before you know it, they can see, well, you're pushing me or you're bullying me, and all I'm trying to do is help you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. The message that comes across is you're interfering with what I want to do on my terms, and then you just no. So if I interview somebody, I screen them as well, and then that's what happens. The other interesting thing is that some of the younger coaches as well, for one of better word, some of them are jerks. They just think that they're the new model, the new way of doing things, and they're going to show you on the wall how it's done properly. But then you ask the question, but what have you done as an athlete that would give you the insight and experience to do this? Well, I just think I can do it better. How? I just think it's better, and then they don't have. I'm not gonna spend my time on that. I'm just saying it's just disappointing to find situations and people like that.
Yeah.
But there are lots of great people. The trouble is you got to be able to figure out for yourself which one's which.
I think too, the kids nowadays are maybe not mentally as tough and have the work ethic
that's true. Because
like, for example, you go to your SMU workout as a freshman and it sets a 6, and there's a lot of, there's 2 pulls a week and then, 1 push a week, and that flip-flops the following week.
Wrong. There were 3 pulls. Wrong.
Yeah.
There were 3 pulls a week. And there were 3 pushes a week. Yeah, and 3 pushes a week.
For upper body, for full body, they couldn't handle that. They would break after the first day.
No. I did it once with a couple of athletes, just to see if they could, and a couple of them could, but some of them couldn't. Yeah. And but in the end, you have to modify the training to suit them, and that's what I did in the end.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in Missouri now?
This is going into my 3rd year.
3rd year. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So what?
This is going.
So tell us a little bit about Missouri and what kind of your facilities. You got 2 or 3 shot put rings, hammer cages. Tell our listeners what kind of facilities you got.
We've got a hammer cage. The netting needs to be replaced. Mm-hmm. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 shot puts. We have 1, 2, 3 discus circles. We have a field for throwing only.
Oh, wow.
We have an indoor facility for throwing. It's not good for the other events, but it's for as far as for what we need to do, it's very good.
Oh, wow.
We have a throwing area. We sort of like, if there's equipment you need and we don't have it for what you need specifically, we'll get it. You also have the head coach is also into the throws as well, and that's a big difference, by the way, in terms of recruiting. If you're in a place where the program supports your event or your event area, you're going to have more success by virtue of the fact that there's more support for you. You find the right man or woman for your program. Whereas before you'd be like, well, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. It's more like the conversation thinking is, let's find a way to get them here. That same thing. But one is saying, I'm not so sure if it's worth this. The other one's saying, let's find a way. So it's a much more positive, much more inviting and encouraging way to get athletes, because you're going to come into a situation where, you're going to be supported. You need, hey, say for example, you like a Nishi discus. We're going to get you a Nishi discus, right? We're going to get you the things to help you to compete, perform at a high level. It's not going to be, can they get the next level down, or can they not get this, or well, my budget only allows for this, so only give them this much. I don't get that. We get what you need to be successful. Awesome. That's the job. Get people to be successful.
Awesome. What's your perspective on what's going on in throwing in the world now, with like Ryan breaking the world's record? The U.S. is kind of becoming the leader in the throws. Valerie in the disc, Deanna Price, and the women in the hammer as well. Americans have always kind of maybe sat behind the East Germans and some of the European countries in throwing, and now we're kind of moving ahead. What's your perspective on that?
Well, first of all, I don't think the U.S. actually fell behind anybody.
Okay.
I think the U.S. has always been in the mix in any conversation regarding throwing. With recent events over the last 25 years and all stuff, it's become a more level playing field, shall we say. And so when it's a more level playing field, now you get the diversity of the pool of Americans across the world. In America, you're going to find some exceptional athletes, and doing some exceptional things. Regarding Valerie Allman, just an exceptional athlete. There's not much more you can say. She's got the right combination of things between herself and Coach Zion that's allowed her to really become a world-class, world champion, number one ranked athlete in the world. You know, a unique skill set, unique technique, but that doesn't mean it's transferable to everybody else. It just means that they are, you know, there's the right combination of things for her to become an Olympic champion. She has, and it's fantastic. It's good to see. Regarding the other countries around the world, the standard over time will rise, and the standard this year, especially in the men's discus, the men's shot, the women's javelin, and the women's discus, those standards have gone up, and the women's hammer, those standards have gone up, and they're moving up steadily. But that's to be expected, because some places are emphasized, like Germans emphasize the throws. Other parts of the country, if you have an athlete who is good, like the guy that Jamaica has, some really exceptional throws athletes, and all you used to hear from coming out of Jamaica were sprinters.
Yeah. And
And then a couple of coaches said, let's start things in the throwing. Before you know it, they now have world-class throwers. There are world-class athletes around the world. I mean, Matt Denny in the discus, I mean, he's another one, you know? So, whereas before 65, 66 meters was in the finals and doing things, 64, 65 meters is in the top 10 or something like that now. And to get into the top 8, you're looking at 66, 67. So the standard in the last few years has jumped up. It's quite something. And it's quite exciting to see.
yeah.
You know, my take on the athletics is that America doesn't really give credit to its own Americans for all the stuff they do, because you have so many other things. You have professional basketball, professional football, professional ice hockey. You have golf. You have so many other areas that, because track and field, and the number one track and field country in the world is United States, and yet as far as the Americans are concerned, track and field is like lower on the rung of importance.
Yeah.
You know, oh, what's the big deal? You have so many Olympic athletes and gold medalists. And it's an incredible place. I mean, heck, my development came as a result of being in America.
Yeah.
And you know, you're in an environment where people have this attitude of being able to excel and finding ways to excel. But within the collegiate ranks, it's become a little bit more cutthroat recently.
Yeah.
A little bit more cutthroat. People are not necessarily playing by the rules, but that's how it is.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, I'm cool. All the time as a professional and it is collegiate, and you mentioned even John Powell earlier, and even the '84 Olympics you threw against Mac Wilkins and John Powell. Is there someone you've kind of always if you're going to meet, you kind of watched them practice, or is there somebody you kind of stood and maybe were, I don't want to say awe, but you kind of respected their craft and what they were doing? You know, I'm sure you've seen a lot of great ones over your time.
Well, I tell you this. I mean, I was never in awe of anyone. One competition though was just it's incredible, and it was the Bislett Games in 1981, and I was there really in a competition, but really a spectator. And Ben Plunknet was throwing.
Oh wow!
And my goodness, there's a guy called Kanuta Jeltnius who'd thrown 69 meters, and he was in pretty good shape apparently. Whatever. So he was throwing, and he said, and he told me that years and years later, I see him. We talk about this. He tells me he says he's throwing the discus pretty well. He realizes he's looking, and he says he goes to pick up his discus. He looks up and sees the discus flying over his head, and that was Ben Plunknet. And Ben, in basically still conditions, threw about 69 meters in a discus at a time when 62 was good.
Yeah.
62 meters, like, whoa, 62 meters, very good.
Wow.
He'd thrown like 68, 94 or something like that. And it was, I mean, I'd thrown 56 meters and like, what am I doing in this competition? I'm learning is what I'm doing. I'm learning, you know? And so But no one had any. And the other person who was interesting was because you don't really sometimes you just don't really understand things until you actually up close and personal and you see it. I was at one of the first times I had track practice at SMU, and Michael comes out to practice and he's out there. Michael warms up and everything. When Michael comes to practice, he does not joke. He does not play.
Yeah.
He is intense. He's intense and he's very focused. He doesn't. I'm just sort of like loosey goosey and how everything's going, blah blah blah. I'm like that, but when I step into the circle, it's different.
Yeah.
But that's what works for me.
Yeah.
He's intense. So I remember watching. He took his first standing throw and he went just like this, like a bullet. I said, "Oh, I wonder what weight that is." And it's going about 60 feet. It's going about 1850, something like 1830, 1850, 18, whatever it was.
Uh-huh.
And he's doing these just standing throws. And then I go outside. I'll just carry a shot put back. He's throwing it with a 16-pound shot.
Oh, wow.
Standing throw, 60 feet. In England, the top guy with a glide is throwing like 17 meters.
Oh, wow.
17, 18 meters. And here he is from a standing throw. Poof. It was just like, what? Throw after throw after throw. And it was like one of those things that people couldn't really understand.
Yeah.
Like how do you explain it to somebody back in Britain? Because they're like, there's no way. People in Britain were like, there's no way. He's got to be doing something. I said, yeah. Bending his legs, turning his shoulders, driving his hips, and firing the shot.
It's good technique.
Yeah. That's what he's doing. And they couldn't believe it.
Yeah. I have to ask you this too, because I'm curious if you met him and you might even remember when I say the name Sammy Walker.
I've never met Sammy Walker.
You never have.
I have never met Sammy Walker. There's a guy on the track team who I'm very good friends with to this day. Is Jerry Ross, and Jerry Ross used to train with Sammy Walker. I have never met Sammy Walker.
Oh wow!
I've got a Facebook invitation to be friends with him, and I'm going to do that. But I've never met Sammy Walker.
Oh wow! We're gonna have to connect y'all then, because he's a good friend of the. But he threw it at SMU, and
he has a barbecue.
The one that broke his record and stuff.
I heard that he's got a barbecue joint now or something like that.
I think he sold the barbecue joint, but he owns some Whataburgers now.
Oh, he does?
Yes.
Good for him.
Yes, he's in the Whataburger business and doing very well.
Of course, he's doing very well. Whataburgers are good burgers. I mean,
yes, they are.
It's hard not to do that.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that your mind remembers, but your body tells you otherwise. Like, yes. I remember, can I have two two quarter pounders, whatever it was, two double doubles or whatever the hell it was. Now it's just one. I was like, yeah, that's gonna be a challenge. That one, just the one. I used to have two of them plus chicken plus this plus that.
Yeah, for sure. But, so
no, I've never met Sammy Walker. I know of him. I've known of him. I knew that Michael broke his high school Texas state record.
Yeah.
But I mean, Michael's national record is something that people can't get their head around. But I will tell you this tidbit. I said, so NCAA's indoors. He'd won the shot put and threw a best or close to a best or something, but he won it anyway. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, Michael, do you think you could throw the 12-pound shot further than what your best is now? He says, Robert, I'd have to take my hands up, take my wrists up and get everything ready. He goes, but yeah, no problem.
Oh, wow.
So he'd thrown the 81, 3.5 or something. I said to him, could you think you could throw it? He goes, yeah, I can throw it further than that now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's just to give you an idea. So you're thinking, oh, this is phenomenal. You never get near that again. He goes, oh, yeah, I can throw it further than that.
Yeah.
Can't do it now, but back then, this is after indoor season. It was just, in my mind, I'm in my mind going, good grief. It's incredible. There were just so many magical things at SMU, which I never thought I would actually experience at a preppy school like that. Now that I know what it is, right?
When you graduated in
the furthest thing.
I have to ask this. When you graduated in 85, were you preppy? Did you turn into preppy?
Oh, heck no. No. None of those things.
Okay.
Not even close. But it was just like I'd come there and I'd never seen such display of wealth and all these things before in my life. And it was just another level of, and there's the thing that at that level, there were levels above that.
Yeah.
you know. But I never seen anything like that in my life. And then the other thing was the other thing is that my college roommate is one of my closest friends today. Right? I met him at SMU. One of my closest friends to this day. In fact, earlier today he called me, and I just had to decline the call because it was, we'd already talked about this.
Yeah.
So he's one of my closest friends. There's Michael, Eric Dickerson, Craig James.
Oh yeah.
Keith Connor, Ted McLaughlin, and there are a number of other James Mobley, Gary Moe. There are a number of other athletes. Lance McElhaney that in my time at SMU, that I was in and around and I had no idea. I remember having a conversation with Eric many years ago. I'm like, Eric, how's it going? He goes, Robert, I think I'm gonna go. I think is it Eric? Yeah, Eric told me. Eric says, Robert, I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to the Rams, probably second or third round pick or something. First or second or third pick or something like that. Whatever the number was. But I'm going to the Rams. He said, yeah. Pick to the Rams. To me, it was just the same guy. And at the end of the season, he comes back around. We see each other. I'm like, Eric, how's it going? Not bad, Robert. I said, how was your first year? Right? He goes, it wasn't too bad. I said, you might want to show him what you really made of the following year. He goes, yeah, I think I can do that.
Yeah.
Eric is a really down to earth, really nice guy. You'd never have any idea about how the kind of quality some of the people at SMU was at the time.
Yeah.
SMU's had its fair share of scandals and things like that.
Yeah.
But there were some really wonderful people there, and my college roommate, I was like blown away, like to this day. I mean, he just called me today. He sent me a Christmas card or something. It probably got returned, but but he's also very close. And he and Michael are so diametrically opposed in terms of their life and growing up in one part or the other and all that stuff. They're friends today too. So my experiences at SMU were very, very positive. I never thought nor expected the level of friendship and impact that I would had at a college like that. I never thought anything of it. That never crossed my mind. And here I am years later. I remember at the Hall of Fame, we were going to the thing, and we were both looking up at the banners. There's one banner with Michael on it when he won national championships, and there's another banner with me on it when I won national championships. And I was like, my goodness, Michael, can you believe this? I said, yeah, buddy, here we are. Like, there's two of us down here looking up at the barriers of us in our youth, and just had no idea. But I wish that I had somebody when I was in college who could sit me down and really explain some of these things.
Yeah.
Because these things you'd have cherished more, you'd have done a little bit more here and there. No matter what you've done, you would have always felt like, you know what, this is really rare. This is really exception. We got to take the next step and do this and do that. But yeah, it was incredible.
Well, you definitely did.
That's awesome.
You definitely.
I made a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah. Well, you've made a difference in the world of throwing, whether you believe it or not. Your impact in throwing, especially collegiately, and what you've done, on the world level, sir, is just tremendous.
Well, I think
Olympians to throw, I can't think of anybody else that has done, hammer, discus, and won Olympics. That nobody would encourage to do that today. And to actually see you did it and made finals in '84 is impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people think, oh, he doesn't know anything about this, he doesn't know anything about that. And then somewhere along the line, somebody else comes out and says something. And they're like, what? Him? I had no idea. But the only thing they have an idea of is when they get a lot better. Then they went, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, now I know. Oh, now I understand.
Yeah. Well, I do have one question. So why the gap from the 84 to the 96 Olympics? So you didn't go to 88 or 90, 92?
No, well, what happened was, being in Texas and people try football, this, that, and the other. And so I ended up playing several years in the Canadian Football League.
You did?
I was okay. It wasn't very good, but I was okay. And, but had I not done that, it wouldn't have solidified my career in terms of coaching. And who knows, if I hadn't done that, maybe I would have moved back to England and I would have lost out on some of the things I gained now. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Wow.
So,
what Canadian football team did you play with?
So after that, I returned to athletics. And they were sort of like, so he's gone from football He's now an Olympic athlete again within 3 years of after having left. I'm like, yeah. So,
Oh wow.
you know,
So would you play
crazy.
defensive end?
Defensive end, nose tackle, things like that. But and even looking back at that game, knowing the things I know now would have been different. But you only know them afterwards. You never know them before.
Wow.
The people know them. The people who know those.
You never put pads on or do anything like that. Just on a whim, you decide to try out and make it.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But anyway, of course, I had a lot of support from Michael Carter.
Yeah.
Michael, my goodness. Sometimes you wonder, like, where would you be without a friend like that? My goodness, what a friend.
Wow.
Sometimes you just don't know. Sometimes when you connect with people, how they're going to impact your lives. And he certainly impacted mine.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's even more impressive that you were able to take a break and then turn around and continue make another Olympics and even compete at that highest level.
Actually, I made another 2 Olympics.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think those could have been my peak years of great performances that got left on the table. You never know. So you do life. You do what you do, and life does what it does.
Yeah, and then you decided to get into coaching and stuff. So
coaching was something that the coaching thing started because of Ted McLaughlin.
Yeah,
he was the one who encouraged me. He says, "Robert, I think you'll be a good coach." And I'm not even here coaching. He says, "No, you'll be a good coach." And from 1985. That summer after 1985, that winter or something, I was coaching. I coached at Brown University.
Oh, okay.
There's some athletes at Brown University are friends of mine to this day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Jerry Danini, Paul Bogdanovich, Mike Devon, Ron McMullen.
Wow.
Wow. Chris Merwin from other years, Brian Kelly, Bruce Gill, Joanne Kansimi. Jennifer Loomis.
Yeah. Is there one person that you've coached besides that have you kind of been most proud of in their development in all your
aside from my daughter, you got to put that in there. Aside from my daughter, because I'll tell you this story, and then I'll tell you if there's one person. That's a tough question, actually. But anyway, so I'll tell you this. So when I was at Oregon, the head coach turned the program over to another guy, knowing full well that as soon as he turned the program over, I was going to get fired. So I got fired. Not renewed. I wasn't actually fired, but not renewed. And so then Jillian says, "Dad, I want to stay at Oregon." I said, "Well, stay." And I said, "Okay, Jillian." So I knew the throws coach then. I didn't know the throws coach then. I know him years later. Many, almost like the last year or two, we've actually become friends. But what happened wasn't his fault. He had nothing to do with it. Yeah. But my daughter was there, and I knew that throws coach. I know his throws coach, the guy who taught him. And I rang the guy up and I said, "How much does he know about this event and that event?" He says, "Well, he really doesn't know too much about these events." I said, "Okay, that's all I wanted to know." I said, because I remember asking my daughter, I said, "Jillian, you've only just started this event. How far do you want to go?" "Dad, I want to go as far as I can." "How far? What does that mean?" She says, "Olympics, World Championship, blah, 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 blah." All of this. Right? The head coach at the time who took over the program, Robert Johnson, wasted no time in getting rid of it. But anyway, so Jillian was there and she transferred there because of me and all that stuff. And she's working with me. And what happened next was, so we were training, and then I leave because she's going to stay. And we're talking about the training she needed to do to get better. Because as I was leaving, the head coach said to me, "The jury is still out on Jillian." I said, "Pardon me?" He said, "The jury is still out on Jillian." In other words, what he's really saying is, your daughter isn't any good as an athlete, as a hammer thrower. I said, "Okay." I said, "Okay, then watch it." I said, "Okay, watch this space." That's what I said to him. So Jillian got a job eventually at Hawaii. So I was coaching in Hawaii. So for one Christmas, Jillian came to me at Christmas and said, "Well, Dad, what do I do?" And I said, "Okay, Jillian, these are the basics of your training. You need to learn to do this. You need to learn to do that. You need to do these things, right? 3 or 4 things you need to do. And I said, you need to do them not just okay, but you need to do them so proficiently that you don't even have to think about it. If they give you this and say do that, you can go right in and do it.
Mm-hmm.
I said, but if you learn these things, and her best in the hammer at that time was 49 meters, right? I said to her, if you learn these things, I said, then you're going to throw well. I said, the goal for you next year is 64 meters.
Oh, wow.
Right? So she's thrown 160. So she's thrown 160 in the hammer. And I told her the goal for her the following year is 210 feet.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I told her. That's your goal. And I said, here's how you're going to do it. You're going to do it like this. These things. So the following year, the conference championships at Oregon, for the Pac-12s, where it was in Southern California, like USC or something. Mm-hmm. And the conference championships for University of Hawaii wasn't too far away. It was like an hour's drive. So I said to the coach, I said, Jillian's an hour away. Do you mind if we go watch it? He goes, no, coach, go ahead and watch her. She'll be fine. We'll be fine here. Go ahead. And then once she's done, get back as soon as you can. So Carmen James was her name, was the coach. Very supportive, says, go ahead. So I, of course, go down there and she's warming up and going into the meet. Now she's thrown 49 meters, right? When I left her. Going into the meet, she'd thrown 51, 53, 56. She'd thrown 58 meters, right, in the hammer that year, so far that year.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine at Oregon said, Robert, Jillian's thrown 58 meters. I want to bring this to your attention because, 58 meters is incredible considering she threw 49 meters the year before.
Yeah.
I wrote back, that is not good enough. The standard that was set for her is further than 58 meters.
Yeah.
58 meters is a good start, but it is nowhere near the standard of where she needs to be. He wrote me back, how could you say that? Your daughter's improved 9 meters. 9 meters, and you're still saying it's not good enough? I said, well, it's not good enough. That's not the standard we set. He said, basically, it was like, how could you? You out of your mind. So we're going into the conference meet, and my daughter's calling me.
Speak of the devil.
Yeah, ironically, yeah. So anyway, so we're going into the conference meet. I looked at the thing. She'd thrown 60 meters 10, which made her like 9th or 10th in the conference at that time.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm watching the competition unfold. And she's warming up at 61, 62 meters. I'm like, okay, not bad. Competition starts. I'm in the side. I'm just watching. She throws 62, and then she throws a 63-meter throw, and then she throws a 63.90 or something like that. 63.90 is close enough to 64 meters, like 209 feet. No, that's good enough, Jillian. You've done your job. I've got to go back, and now I've now got to go back, and I've got to coach, the team that I'm, it's part of my duties. And so I leave, and then I get a phone call. And the phone call says, Jillian just threw 210. I said, yes, I know. She threw 63 meters. I saw that performance. Is very good. He says, no, she threw 64 something. I get back to the meet, and I look at the results. After I get back to me coaching, I get a break. I look at results. She's thrown 212. She threw 64.70. She went from 9th or 10th at the beginning of the year at the conference meet, not even listed in the top 20, to finishing 4th.
Wow.
They were like, where did she come from? The following year, she wins.
Oh, wow.
Not bad for a walk-on.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I never had a chance, but I wanted to say to Robert Johnson, I said, how was that space looking?
For sure. It just goes to show that you can, if you believe in yourself and you believe in your athletes, I don't want to say you can will it, but with a little application of hard work, it can come true.
In the right doses and in the right places.
Yes.
What it really comes down to is that I believed in her.
Yeah.
Because she made me believe in her.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, oh, you're going to do this. She made me believe. Because when I asked her what she wanted to do, she was clear on what she wanted to do. There was no, maybe I'm not sure, this, that, and the other. No, Dad, I want to go to the highest level. That was a straightforward answer. That was it. Done.
Yeah.
She made it. Okay, Jillian, if you really want to do that, here's what you need to do. Yeah. And she proved it. So.
She did.
Yeah.
She did, for sure.
So,
well, sir, I know we've kept you on for a long time. Your daughter's calling you and stuff, so we're going to let you go and so you can call her back.
You're going to have to sort out all these questions because you got so many different pieces from all over the place.
That's okay.
That's her job, and she does a good job of editing.
All right. Well, in the meantime, if you see Sammy Walker, tell him I said hello. I've said that I've yet to meet him. I've yet to meet him, and then yeah, thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed doing the podcast.
Yes, what amazing story! I wish we would have had you on earlier. You just, man, you're done a jack. We didn't even talk about the world's strongest man competition.
No, most people don't know about that either. I was one of the funniest things for me though was this happened when I was working at Stanford, and I was in charge of the weight room because they didn't give me a full salary. So to make up the full salary, they gave me a salary from the weight room as well. So I was like the weight room manager, and so they had recreational lifting at the same time as they had, collegiate lifting, which wasn't a good idea, by the way. But anyway, so I would have to be on the door, and then they'd come in, and I'd walk past, and I'd hear. So I did this competition. I just didn't, I did the competition, and I remember walking past, and I'd say things like whisper, strongest man, and I'd go strongest man. And I just keep walking. I wouldn't say anything. And so then they'd go through the lineup. They'd go through the lineup, and they'd say such and such. And and I decided, right, this is going to get out of hand. So I better make sure I have an answer. And I decided if they asked me the question directly, I was going to give them an answer directly, because anything else is just everything else is just not going to go over well. So every once in a while, somebody's like, were you in the world's strongest? They'd ask me directly, said, were you the guy in the world's strongest man? I said, yes, I was. They go, okay, and that was it, done. It was over. But it was really funny because in one year, the students some of the students didn't know, and I never said anything. I just didn't talk about these things. So one of the years, these students, they all got together and they locked, and we had a staff meeting or something, and they blocked the door so I couldn't leave because I would have just left.
Yeah.
And they said, all right, here's an important video. We're going to talk about this. And it was the world's strongest man they played for the students. And the students were just they were out of their minds. They were like clapping and cheering and everything. And they said, because here I was standing there in a room with them. It was like surreal. They're watching this thing on TV and I'm in the same room. Like, yeah, okay.
That makes me think of a quick. How much, when you were in your peak condition, especially coming from Canadian football to throwing, what did you weigh, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't mind you asking. Football, I weighed about 280.
Wow. Okay. So when you threw, you threw at 240, 250?
No. When I threw, I weighed a little bit more.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
wow. You carried that much mass throwing.
Yeah. Well, you don't think you were at the time.
Yeah.
Because if you can do all the things that you can, like, you do hurdle hops at 42 inches.
Yeah.
You do your standing long jumps. You do your snatches and things like that, and it's, you don't feel like, can't move. In the off season, you wouldn't do any training, then you have to work your way back into shape. Yeah. And one of the things I did learn, which is what I tell the athletes now, is that when you're in the off season, do not let yourself go. Yeah. Because it takes so much work to bring yourself back to a level of competitiveness that you're really struggling when really in reality you could be getting ahead. Mm-hmm. So in your off season, if you're in great shape, say you could bench press, 300 pounds, and you can, and you can clean 300 pounds. You say to her, it's like, look, don't let it go back to 150 pounds and do absolutely nothing. Maintaining around 250 or 230 or what, maintain the exercise, maintain the strength. I said, because at the end of the day, it's going to be much easier to get in shape faster and make progress than it is to go all the way from the bottom, all the way back up. They said it's the same amount. If you put that work in from 0 to here,
yeah.
Well, you have to go all the way back up to here. Then what if you stayed here and moved up to there?
Yeah. Very true.
So that's one of the things I've learned. I said, don't get too far out of shape. Once you're competing and you're at that level, stay in that level. Yeah. Stay in and around that level.
Do you still lift today?
Oh, absolutely. I still do, because what I find is as you get, with time and everything else like that, what makes it easier for you to do is this. You can still feel comfortable picking up things that are heavy and doing this and moving things that way, as opposed to, I can't do this, I can't move that. Yeah. No. Being able to push your own car is really a good thing as well.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
So,
sir, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
God bless you. And so, thank you so much. Stay warm and be safe.
staying warm is a challenge, but yes, I plan to do that.
We'd like to thank Coach Weir for being on. What a tremendous story. He is.
Him forever.
I
We
know.
didn't even get his youth stuff.
I know we
It was
didn't.
one
That's true. We didn't even do that. I know. But for somebody that threw professionally from basically 1984 to 2002 with a little bit of Canadian League football to be able to coach, his impact in throwing in the U.S. spreads almost 40 years.
Yeah.
Really, from throwing at SMU, from coaching, from everything he's done, has been huge impact.
And then his daughter.
And then who's still current, who's still throwing. I love that, he really stressed as a coach to learn your athlete, and he developed, or some other coaches has this link to throwing, and he even talked about John Powell, knew that he was going to throw the discus bar, which was, he was a result of his deadlifts and how that was the link to his throwing and stuff. And I think there is that connection with lifting that you have in your throwing results. And if you're peaking in the weight room, you're going to see that in the marks that, you hit at the competition and stuff. But a guy that has, been everywhere, have done anything, he's almost, you remember the commercial where you're the most fascinating man in the world?
Yeah.
That he should be that.
He's the strongest man.
Exactly.
Played football and been in the Olympics.
Yes.
And numerous places.
Yes.
Can't throw the shot
You
put,
can't throw the shot put.
but at least he can own that he can't throw the shot.
Yeah, but
There was something he said about for kids who come that the coach shouldn't be working harder than you for what you want. Like he talked a lot about even his daughter, asking kids, how far do you want to take this? And taking their answer, said, okay, let's get you there.
yeah.
It's like, well, I don't know, But find the right support. You said one time, the right community, the right support, the right place.
Yeah.
Get athletes where they want to go.
Yeah. And I also the fact that great athletes surround them with other great athletes. And I go back to his time at SMU when he was working with Michael Carter and maybe hanging out with Eric Dickerson and Craig James and all that type of stuff. SMU was a hot commodity back during that time.
Preppy SMU.
Preppy SMU.
It's still preppy.
But at the same time, you do take for granted all those people that he's surrounded with turned out to be great people. And it goes to show you that like minds kind of think alike and go out and kind of do your own thing to be great at something. And I really think his was, even from his roommate and stuff, to do all that type of stuff. So yeah, very fascinating. But 3-time NCAA champion, 10 times All-American, 3-time Olympian, basically almost in different decades.
Yeah, 87, 96, and 2000.
Yeah, or 84, that's supposed to be
84.
84. 84, 96, and 2000. Yeah, I wrote that down wrong. But so, and then just be coaching collegiately all over.
Yeah.
For sure.
Awesome.
So, and Jen just put in the SMU Hall of Fame.
Anne has a daughter who's an Olympian.
Yeah, who's one of the world's best hammer throwers.
Sweet. All right, we want to thank our sponsors again, Texas Track and Field Coach Association, ttfca.org. Go to that website. The Winter Clinic is this weekend.
It's January 7th and 8th.
This weekend when I publish it.
Yes.
This weekend, so hopefully you're going to that. If you are, come out and see us. We will be there on Saturday. Forthrows.com, Quality Implements Cross Right. Use the code TalkingThrows10 to get 10% off. Porta Circle, making throwing more accessible. Go to porta-circle.com, and you can use that code XMAS TTFCA. That's XMAS TTFCA 15 to get 15% off until January 9th, because it's going to be cold for a while. So get you a Porta Circle. If you're in the Austin area, go to Ready Up Athletic Development, readyupad.com. Or you can contact Zach Phillips at 512-507-8347. And remember to check out his, I say check out. I don't know what else to say. Remember to go look at his program, Basic Throw Strength in that throw, Train Heroic. And you can use the code THROWS10 to get 20% off. Again, go to Train Heroic and look up Basic Throw Strength. And then a big shout out to Big Frogs of Colleyville. If you're looking for any printing and embroidering, and then go to thethrowingfactory.com. Lots of lessons that we can do. I'm training little ones, and I was about to say hammer. I don't think we're throwing the hammer at 8 years old, but maybe we should start. A little javelin, a little shot put if you got 11 or 12-year-old, introduce them to the discus.
The shopping page as well. If you want to look full at your next track meet, we got some really cool apparel on there, from hats, fleece jackets, sweatshirts. Also, there's some lifting DFW apparel on there as well. Remind everybody about Lifting DFW Human Performance. Go to liftingdfw.com. If you're looking to get any instruction on a program for Olympic lifting, to be a multi-sport athlete, to go from one sport to the next, we can design a program to get you in peak condition. So
just like Coach Weir talked about.
Just like
you,
yeah.
All those cleans and all that stuff that he did, and still does to this day.
Yes. And then on that throwingfactory.com website, you can find links to Fiber Source Discus, 4 throws, quarter circle, to Lifting DFW, and to the podcast. So so we want all our traffic to go through there. And then YouTube channel, go subscribe to that. And we're gonna have some new stuff coming out in 2023. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel. Give us some likes, write some comments. All right, you guys, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.